Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dear Esther. This is the very famous indie game from the Chinese room, and the one that started the trend of narrative exploration games, if you will. Kind of like where you just walk around and look for clues and stuff and listen to the story unfold. So, yeah, given how old this is, surprising I haven't got around to playing it, but here we are, finally. I still don't know I don't know anything about what goes on in this game, so this is gonna be my first time playing through it. So, without further ado, here we go.
Dear Esther, I sometimes feel as if I've given birth to this island. Somewhere between the longitude and latitude, a split opened up, and it beached remotely here. No matter how hard I correlate, it remains a singularity, an alpha point in my life that refuses all hypothesis. I return each time leaving fresh markers that I hope, in the full glare of my hopelessness, will have blossomed into fresh insight in the interim.
In other words, follow the markers, eh? The ocean.
Come back.
I saw a lighthouse. In those brief moments I saw a lighthouse. So apparently we're shipwrecked here, it seems. On this odd, lonely island. I heard noises. And I have a flashlight. Disgusting toilet. Industrial noises. It looks like we can't go up the lighthouse. Or the spire, or whatever it is. That's the structure of hydrocarbon? There's an OH in it, so I don't know what that element is exactly. I have a feeling if I know what that element is, you should give me a hint. All I know is that it's some kind of hydrocarbon. Possibly explosive? I don't know. Christ, that startled me. That wind is making an awful lot of sound. There's a lot of paint in here. I guess I'll follow the seagull. Walking along the shores. Sounds like stormy weather tonight. Maybe. Certainly is a beautiful island. I'll give it that. There's a beach here. It's a very beautiful beach as well, I guess. Actually no, I've seen better. This is hardly what one would call a beach. But it certainly is very ambient. Appears to be fish traps here. I think those are fish traps, I'm not sure. ropes and fish and... well, no fish, but remains of fish. It doesn't look like there's anything down here. There are stairs up though.
There was once talk of a wind farm out here, away from the rage and the intolerance of the masses. The sea, they said, is too rough for the turbines to stand. They clearly never came here to experience the becalming for themselves. Personally, I would have supported it. Turbines would be a fitting contemporary refuge for a hermit. The revolution and the permanence.
And there's an incomplete I can't remember what it's called. A Fibonacci spiral? Doesn't sound right. Fibonacci's numbers probably have nothing to do with that. Do they? I know it's involved in the golden ratio, but I'm not sure.
I have found the ship's manifest, crumpled and waterlogged under a stash of paint cans. It tells me that along with this present cargo, there was a large quantity of antacid yogurt bound for the European market. It must have washed out to sea. God knows there are no longer gulls or goats here to eat it.
A door. And a piece of axles and wheels and tires. This is unmistakably a car door. How would a car get down here though? Shipwrecked? This appears to be the end of the path. Yep. This is the end of the path, it seems. It's time to go back. Wonder what this is about though. The ambience is... well, I guess it's rather soothing. To an extent. Oh, up the steps. I can't see what's there in the distance. More rocks? More tiny islands? Who knows? This clearly was once inhabited, given there are signs of civilization everywhere. There's a beacon up there.
A wonderful sight. The moon cresting the junction between the cliff path and the stone circle. It cast a shadow of the ridge across the beach, all the world as if you had signed your name in untidy handwriting.
I really don't like what the weather sounds like. There's more paths up there.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boat, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
So, something happened on this island. Something happened before to make a split in the path. No, not to make a split in the path. To make everyone not be here anymore.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds. There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter and verse to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with a superimposed significance, that they could actually walk the Bible and inhabit its contradiction?
So the people that lived here were shepherds. And they died out to disease. Or something of the sort. Or maybe they were fishermen. We did see fish stuff lying around.
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life. I would leave you presents outside your retreat in this interim space between cliff and beach. I would leave you loaves and fishes, but the fish stocks have been depleted and I've run out of bread. I would row you back to your homeland in a bottomless boat, but I fear we would both be driven mad by the chatter of the sea creatures.
So this man who was shipwrecked, making Bible references now. Paul in Damascus and fish. There are strange symbols on the wall. And there's that hydrocarbon again. Well, it doesn't seem like there's anything else in this cave. It is oddly luminescent though. Oddly luminescent. So far, I guess I'm just soaking up the atmosphere. There's the sound of a gull. There it is. Can I not walk up here? I can.
The vegetation here has fossilized from the roots up. To think they once grazed animals here, the remnants of occupation being evidence to that. It is all sick to death. The water is too polluted for the fish, the sky is too thin for the birds, and the soil is cut with the bones of hermits and shepherds. I've heard it said that human ashes make great fertilizer. That we could sow a forest from all that is left of your hips and ribcage, with enough left over to thicken the air and repopulate the land.
So everything on this island is not suited for life. Are these tombstones? There's a Bible. The Bible they were talking about. More hydrocarbons. Ring structures. I forgot to know my chemistry. Let us keep walking. Perhaps we too one day will find out what happened. I doubt that though. This seems like the kind of game that will leave everything kind of open-ended by the end of it all, and we'll be left to make our own conclusions. The wind is howling. A storm is coming. Hearing this weather fills you with determination. I'm sorry. And we've reached a checkpoint, it seems.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome break services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
It seems our man has gone slightly mad. Comparing a stretch of sea to the M5 in Britain. It is Britain, right? I'm not sure. In any case, we walk on towards the great wreck that borders the ocean and the land. Repossession advice. Final notice. Warrant execution. Cans and stuff. Whoa. That is a big shipwreck. So, am I Esther? If I am Esther, then who is this man that's writing to me? My husband? Wait a second. Are those hydrocarbons esters? Is that your clever wordplay all along? I forgot what an ester is, but I know it's a hydrocarbon and it has yes, it does have oxygen in somewhere there. Are those esters? Those chemicals, those are esters, aren't they? Is he writing to a figment of his imagination? Was the ship carrying chemicals that was his ship carrying esters? Perhaps he is writing to an imaginary woman after seeing the half-glimpsed word left on the cargo. Maybe I am the man after all.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
I don't understand you. You are rambling. Well, take the path, I guess. Take the path.
I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
The car of a drunk. So, going back to Esther, if she is indeed a real person, was she killed in a car crash? I saw the remains of a car by the beach. Maybe she got drunk and drove over the edge. Or maybe he got drunk and drove her over the edge. Either seems likely. I don't think there's anything towards the beach, is there? Or is this is where we came from? To the left then. Nothing but ocean and land and the sounds of the sea. There are smaller boats as well. The ship is rusted. It's been there for a long time.
All night the boy has kept me lucid. I sat, when I was at the very edge of despair, when I thought I would never unlock the secret of the island. I sat at the edge, and I watched the idiot boy blink through the night. He is mute, and he is retarded, and he has no thought in his metal head but to blink each wave and each minute aside until the morning comes and renders him blind as well as deaf-mute. In many ways, we have much in common.
So that is the boy, eh? Yep. Sounds like a man who has lost his mind in a shipwreck. I think there's my path, behind that hill in the mountains. It'll take me a while to get there. I suppose I'm walking towards that lighthouse. That is a lighthouse, is it not? Or a beacon. Some sort of emergency beacon, I do not know. I guess I will find out. Perhaps we are this man retracing his final steps. Perhaps we are his long-lost wife, coming to find him and discovering his story. Or perhaps I am the ghost of his long-lost wife, dead from a car accident and retracing his steps. Or perhaps this is all just some muddled dream of a man at the edge of despair, who feels anger towards boys and has personified chemicals. Who knows? You see, I too can ramble, just as much as he can ramble. It is quite easy to do. Perhaps I should have taken the lower path. It seems there's something down there. Well, I have made my decision, so... No, I believe the path rejoins in time. There is the beacon. There is a house. There are villages. Or a village. There are houses that make a village.
I've begun to climb, away from the sea and towards the center. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore.
Alright, ambience. You sounded odd for a second there. Are these walls? The remains of walls? They are scattered all over the place in no discernible order. There seems to be an altar of stones.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
There is that symbol again. So this is a structure for shepherding, I think. Is this a bothy? You learn something every day. I'll go back and check to be sure anyway.
Inventory. A trestle table we spread wallpaper on in our first home. A folding chair. I laughed at you for bringing camping in the lakes. I was uncomfortable later and you laughed then. This diary. The bed with the broken springs. Once asleep you have to remember not to dream. A change of clothes. Donnelly's book, stolen from Edinburgh Library on the way here. I will burn them all on the last morning and make an aerial of my own.
So the shipwrecked man spent the night here. But his friend passed away? There goes another seagull. His friend passed away and left him with nothing much left to lose, so he took his belongings and burnt them in an attempt to call for help. Down this path? Or down that way? That's a way. I'd rather not go back down to the ocean. I like to stick further inland and try to locate that beacon. It's up upon that hill, is it not? I don't think I can climb up there. Well, it looks like I've got no choice. Back down we go, towards the ocean, towards the sounds of the waves and the wind, and the rumbling of thunder overhead. That is a steep drop. That is a very steep drop. Do not walk off the side. The path is getting narrow.
In a footnote, the editor comments that at this point Donnelly was going insane as syphilis tore through his system like a drunk driver. He's not to be trusted. Many of his claims are unsubstantiated, and although he does paint a colourful picture, much of what he says may have been derived directly from his fever. But I've been here, and I know, as Donnelly did, that this place is always half imagined. Even the rocks and caves will shimmer and blur with the right eyes.
So perhaps there is something on this island that makes men hallucinate or lose their minds. Esters? Strange chemicals. The esters,
They
perhaps.
found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. He'd struggled halfway down the cliff path, perhaps looking for some lost goat, or perhaps in a delirium, and expired, curled into a claw right under the winter moon. Even the animals shunned his corpse. The mainlanders thought to bring it home unlucky. Donnelly claims they dragged it to the caves to thaw out and rot, but he is proving an unreliable witness.
Thus ends the tale of the sad fisherman. Fisherman? I mean shepherd. Perhaps I too am losing my mind. We seem to be entering a cave. Perhaps there we will find the corpse of this Jacobson.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
I do not think I want to go down there. I do not think I can enter this place either. It is a limestone cave. It seems this mysterious man we are following, well, he broke his ankle and stuff. Perhaps he lost his, he wasn't feeling well. And that is why, he imagined sounds as he walked into this cave. Or perhaps that's just the wind being warped. I am beginning to suspect there is only one way to go. The sound of echoing waves and rocks can be truly terrifying. Seems like I have no other way.